यमुना कह रही है उसमें ऐसा नहीं है, सॉरी स्पोर्ट्स कार है, माज़दा है मेरा, पोर्शे है,
पोर्शे।
ये बड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट होता है ना, लेन चेंज करना, उसमें राइट जब चेंज करते हैं, राइट या लेफ्ट दोनों ही, क्योंकि इसमें होता है आपको देखना पड़ता है, बाजा होता है
अचानक से गाड़ी है।
65 से ऊपर करती है ना, नहीं 70 पे भी जाके सही जाती है, 60 और 60
रोड जो है ना,
70
रोड थोड़ा प्रेशर पड़ता है।
नहीं है, सस्पेंशन सही है, कुछ भी नहीं पता भी नहीं चलता। ये ना बहुत है स्पीड, माइल्स पर आवर होती है, पाकिस्तान में 1 किलोमीटर होती है, ये माइल्स पर आवर है। तो 100 कितना हो गया है, 140 हो गया,
110
हैं
140 140।
अच्छा ये डिटेक्ट कर रहे हैं स्पीड।
वो होता है शीशे में चिपकाने वाला, वो मैं लेकर आऊँगा, यहाँ लगा
है मेरे पास है।
मैं कार चार्जर ला रहा था, चला नहीं था ना कार चार्जर। 10 PM closure at Northwest 32.
And then there's some that just will go on.
गाड़ी लगा रुक रहा है बेटा।
He claims there's 172,770 that are currently in the verification process, and I'll mention kind of as we go on a little bit what that's all about. So you have 1.468 million total processed claims, and this is all just in the last 2 months, most of it in the last probably 6 or 8 weeks. So you have that. 468,000 are ineligible for re-employment assistance in the state. There's various reasons for that. There's some who are independent contractors who wouldn't qualify under state law, but as you know, there's almost 100,000 who are eligible for the federal $600. Most of them, unfortunately, are eligible for both. You do have some, and of course, you have some people that just aren't eligible. Some of them don't even live in Florida. Some of them make money out of state. Some of them don't have a valid.
मुझे रशर को रुका था ना, जब दादा को जब हम हॉस्पिटल से ला रहे थे, तो मुझे रशर को रुका था ना पुलिस वालों ने, तो एक दिखा के रुका था, क्लास में दिखाई थी, वो सीधे जा रहे थे। तो हुआ ये था कि रात में जो है ना, आगे की प्लेट थी, पीछे की प्लेट थी, तो मैदान में अच्छा हालत भी खराब कबाड़ा हुई थी उसकी। तो जब हम सड़क के लिए हमने लेफ्ट लिया, तो वो जो है ना वहाँ पे आगे पुलिस की गाड़ी थी। अब मैंने उनको ना हॉर्न दिया, वो हिले ही, वो नहीं हिले, तो मैंने कहा अच्छा, मैंने ओवरटेक कर लिया। अब मुझे लगा उनकी गाड़ी CNG पे होगी, वो पकड़ नहीं पाएंगे, मैंने स्पीड में भगाई होगी।
कब की बात है?
जब शुरू में दादा शौक मेमोरियल में थे,
अच्छा
की बात है।
The
तो
department has paid
पीछे
out
आगे जब
more
बशर आनी
money
है तो सामान
in
लेके
the last 10 weeks
मैं और जब बशर सामान
than
लेके
it
आ
had
रहे
in the
थे
previous
तो
5 years.
रोका के उन्होंने कहते हैं कि हाँ
So
भाई किधर
2015,
साइड में लगाओ
2016,
साइड में लगाया तो
2017,
अब मुझे लगा कि वो सीएनजी के सिलेंडर लगा था मैंने गाड़ी से सीएनजी पे होगी इत्तेफाक से वही पेट्रोल पे थी तो उसने पकड़ लिया आगे अब उन्होंने जब कहा कि बाहर आओ चेकिंग करो तो मैंने फिर से कहा जरा फोन वगैरह अपना रख देना फोन अपना छोड़ दो जरा मैंने कहा कहीं देख लिया ना उन्होंने तो उनको अंदाजा हो जाएगा कि इनके पास है पैसे बाकी फिर अशर साथ लेके गया मैं अशर को अशर साहब ने हालत अशर की भी खराब थी मेरी भी खराब थी पूछो उन्होंने कहाँ से आ रहे हो मैं हॉस्पिटल से आ रहे हैं हॉस्पिटल जा रहे हैं गाड़ी में तो फ्रॉड बना कह रहे हैं अच्छा चलो ठीक है हमें छोड़ा तो बच्चे आ रहे थे बाइक पर उनको पकड़ लिए पैसे लेंगे
Obviously, you got to complete the application. So if you don't have a last name, you don't have a social security number, that's going to be problematic. You have to be able to have your identity verified. So a social security number is going to be required, and it's actually required under federal law that be verified as a legitimate social security number. You will have claims that are locked for fraudulent activity, and there's different triggers for that. Some triggers are someone submits a claim, it's valid, they get paid, and then they go on again and submit another one, and that will cause the account to be locked. Sometimes people just didn't realize they got paid and were trying to do it again, but there's certain pitfalls with that. So anytime you have multiple claims for the same person, there is going to be a fraud alert on that. But then obviously you got to provide work history information. Re-employment assistance for people that lost their jobs, and so you have to show the source of employment. Of the 1.6 million unique claims, about 500,000, 28.6%, were deemed ineligible at some point in the process. Now, normally in a normal environment, the majority of claims that are submitted for re-employment assistance in Florida are deemed ineligible. And so this, I think, the majority of claims are being paid, but that's obviously more reflective of these extraordinary circumstances. So why would you be deemed ineligible? If the employment separation is deemed a discharge for misconduct, if the claimant voluntarily quit work without good cause, the claimant received income for the week they were claiming unemployment, if the claimant was not able and available for work. So these are things just basically under the law. We do have people that are applying for Florida re-employment who are receiving wages in other states, and so that obviously would render you ineligible if that were the case. You do have the federal pandemic unemployment assistance, and so the vast majority of the applicants in Florida are getting up to $275 a week from the state, and then $600 a week from the federal government. And so that is something that is broader than the state's rules, because you could be an independent contractor and potentially qualify for the what they call PUA. So we have almost 100,000 of the ineligible state RA claims have already been deemed eligible for PUA, and then more of these are being worked through the system now. So I'd imagine you'll see that number grow, which is obviously a good thing. I mean, the unemployment was written for kind of the typical employee. You do have some folks who are contractors or whatever, that it's really good that the federal benefits are available to them. And so this was something that required overcoming a lot of challenges. There's still to this day glitches being fixed every single day, software upgrades. But we were in a situation where people, at one point the system was down like 75% of the time. The website wasn't even up. And any decent website is up 99.999% of the time. So big problem. And there were a lot of things done to troubleshoot that, including a mobile-friendly website, an adapter so that data can be transferred from the new mobile-friendly site to Connect, paper applications, which many people availed themselves, and actually free printing and mailing through FedEx. I personally talked to the CEO of FedEx and asked for that assistance, and they graciously provided it. Also, Career Source Florida and local governments. So getting those claims in. Now this was at least 100,000. I think many more than that. Massive boxes inside DEO, had all kind of employees having to surge to meet that. But I think it was the right thing to do, because if someone couldn't get on the system, they needed a way to be able to file the claim. The customer service centers mean, there were not very many calls being received in February, I can tell you that, because unemployment was so low. So this has been a big issue to be able to get more representatives. And so there's now 5 customer service centers with nearly 6,000 trained representatives. There's certain training that takes place in a matter of days for things like PIN resets. Some of the more intensive had normally taken a month. That's been streamlined to 2 weeks. And again, this is because of the problem, being so massive. You have to surge personnel to be able to do that. Obviously, reemployment is based on the idea that it's temporary. You need to be looking for work. Well, obviously the jobs were drying up. It was not a time where you're going to be able to go out and find a lot of people hiring. So I, as governor, suspended the work search requirements in a way in order to speed this thing along. System was overwhelmed. People could not sign on to recertify. You do have to recertify every 2 weeks. We suspended that, but we did bring in 72 servers to be able to allow more concurrent users on the Connect system. And again, that's taking that jalopy, understanding you're running in Daytona, you're going to get left in the dust, bring in more servers, make all these different upgrades, like the SAN system, transfer speeds, software optimizations. That's getting under the hood, understanding you kind of have what you have, and how can you make it so that people can eventually get their money. And so that's what was being done for days and days and weeks, and really 24 hours a day for a lot of this stuff. We wanted to make sure the money got out as quickly as possible. Now, normally, if you were unemployed in, say, January, it would take a couple weeks before you really could even apply. So there was a waiting week. You had to apply for jobs. And then by the time it went through the system, it was definitely a 4 to 5 week process in normal times. And so that obviously was not something that we wanted to see here, given the urgency of the situation. And now we didn't get there immediately with shorting it, but now we're at the point, where we have. But suspending the waiting week was something that I did important. We brought in over 2,000 state employees and other agencies to be able to help with the reemployment issues. Of course, all kind of hardware and software. And then we brought in the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles to verify the Social Security numbers. We were running that through the federal government, and their system was very slow. Obviously, everyone across the country is taxing that right now. So it was doing like 1,000 a day or something like that. That would have taken a year to go through all the claims we had. Fortunately, we had other options, so we went highway safety, and they were able to verify the Social Security numbers, which is really good, and it's helped speed this process along. So, steps to receiving payment: obviously file a complete application at floridajobs.org. You will get a notification by email or mail. There'll be directions explaining how to log in to Connect and proceed with your claim. And I would just say we've seen a lot of claims where you don't necessarily have all the information there. So Social Security number, some of that very, very important, because the claim's going to stop if it doesn't have those informations. There is a verification process. The amount of fraudulent requests, that just happens on any government program. And so you have to verify identity, you have to verify wages from previous employers. That's what the law requires. But quite frankly, I think the taxpayers want that money going to the people who are unemployed. But if someone isn't really unemployed,
in Florida,
then
if you see a
of course,
biker, you hit
want to
him.
make sure that money's there for the people that really need it. So there's a process with that. And then, of course, the monetary determination. What you will have sometimes is, and there's a process under the law, where someone will apply for it and the employer may contest it. And so there's just a process that ensues. That's not because the Connect system isn't functioning. That's the way the law is written. I was in Tampa, and there was a reporter who said, "Hey, I have so-and-so who is still waiting for a check." And I was like, "Well, do you have any information?" She's like, "No, I don't have any." I was like, "Well, give me the information, and we'll look." And it turned out that the individual had left the job voluntarily before the pandemic hit, and the employer is contesting it. So there's just a process that goes along with that. But if your employer contests it, that's something that's outside of whether Connect is functioning or not. The payments are going out via direct deposit or prepaid card based on your selection, and obviously the direct deposit is an easier thing. But I mean, the amount of payments that are being processed through unlike anything in the state's history to be able to do this. So this puts some claim numbers in perspective. You look throughout all those years when the system was designed to handle 1,000 people on the system a day, or at a time, maybe 5,000. You can see why. I mean, there just weren't as many claims filed on a weekly basis. As we get into this massive uptick in claims. And this is interesting. That's the total claims filed on this 1.474 million just between March 15th and March 19th. I mean, I think March 15th is kind of a pretty good date. Actually, maybe even you would do the 17th or 18th when they started the 15 days to stop the spread. Remember, the week before that, they were saying, go on a cruise, go to a campaign rally, just sneeze in your elbow and wash your hands. And then that went into groups no larger than 10, shut down bars, restaurants, all this stuff. So it was a massive pivot by the feds and by others. And so that was really the inflection point. And so just in these 2 months, and compare that, those 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, that's the entire year for